Elias, a young boy with a heart full of dreams. More than anything, he wanted to be the greatest archer in the kingdom. Every morning, before the sun rose and while the world was still asleep, Elias would slip into the forest with his old wooden bow slung over his back and a quiver full of arrows. Day after day, he practiced shooting at a tree trunk, determined to perfect his aim. Most of his arrows flew straight and true, but one arrow always let him down. No matter how carefully he aimed, no matter how hard he pulled back the string, this particular arrow simply spun in the air and dropped to the ground like a stone. It was a beautiful arrow, crafted just like the others, smooth, well-shaped, and balanced. But it refused to fly. Weeks passed, and Elias grew more and more frustrated. He practiced harder, stayed longer, and even tried to forget about the stubborn arrow. But every time he reached into his quiver and felt its familiar weight, his heart sank. One evening, as he packed up his things with a heavy sigh, he whispered to himself, "What's the point of trying so hard if one arrow keeps letting me down?" That night, Elias had a strange and vivid dream. An old archer with a long grey beard appeared before him in the forest. The man looked wise and calm, and without saying a word, handed Elias the faulty arrow. Then he spoke softly, "The arrow that doesn't fly is the arrow you'll learn the most from." And with that, he vanished. Elias woke up with those words echoing in his mind. He didn't know what they meant fully, but something in his heart shifted. The next morning, Elias returned to the forest, but this time he didn't practice shooting. Instead, he studied the arrow. He examined the grain of the wood, the weight of the tip, the angle of the feathers. He centered its shaft, adjusted its balance, rewound the feathers with patient hand. It wasn't exciting work. It wasn't quick. But for the first time, Elias didn't give up. He leaned in to understand what wasn't working. Days later, he stood at his usual spot beneath the old oak tree. With a steady breath, he knocked the arrow, pulled back the string, and let it go. It soared. Not only did it fly, it flew further and straighter than any arrow he had ever shot. His eyes widened with wonder, and a quiet smile formed on his face. He had done it, not by running away from failure, but by facing it head-on. Sometimes we are the arrow that doesn't fly, and that's okay, because what matters most is not how many times we fall, but how many times we rise, adjust, and try again. Failure is not the end, it's the beginning of something greater. So if you ever feel like you are not flying yet, don't give up. The sky is still waiting.